Stevens has managed to pull one over on Modoff again and reduce the points to a scant 8 markers. Meanwhile, Ash sits third in the championship on an impressive 4-race run of podiums. Lurking in the shadows, he seems almost guaranteed to win at some point if he keeps up this sort of consistency. Could he even dare dream of possibly sneaking in with a championship if the leaders begin to get too feisty? We'll see what today holds in store for this winding tale as we get ready to watch round 6 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Barcelona is a track often maligned for its lack of overtaking opportunities, but the challenge of being fast here shouldn't be underestimated. To see what the drivers are up against, let's head down to our track guide. Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona. The home of the Spanish Grand Prix for nearly 30 years, it's easy to forget that this is a relatively recently built track in Europe. It's known for its long, sweeping corners and hosts the highest level of open-wheel and motorcycle racing. Placing an emphasis on a good aerodynamic setup with high downforce cars, it's often overlooked that it offers plenty of overtaking for lower-tier racing as well. In fact, most don't take into account that this adaptable track has 5 different layouts to choose from. These range from the nearly 3-mile-long Grand Prix version to the minuscule 1-mile club circuit. Because of the pit straight being the longest acceleration zone, Elf is the most likely spot for drivers to get a pass done. After that, your next hope might be into La Caixa, which, depending on which layout you use, could be a sharpened set of 2 turns or one long hairpin with an opening radius. In the early 2000s, a chicane was added close to the end of the lap, but the old Europe car corner can still be run. The Spanish fans have some gorgeous views from the many hills dotted along the track. And with the international fame this place has built over time, it's no wonder they're almost always full come race day. Well, at least we could see the track there because, well, as you can see, we're racing at night now. So why don't you fill the viewers in with a few more details so that they can get a better picture?
Well, as they can't see, I suppose, this is Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya in Montmeló, Spain, just near the wonderful city of Barcelona. It's the historic layout, meaning the superior layout of this track. 13 turns, and we have 4.7 kilometers, just under 3 miles of racing to go here for the next 60 minutes, including the qualifying session. And as it is night, not even in Spain do the temps rise too high. The weather partly cloudy, 19 degrees Celsius, that's 20 degrees track temps with very calm winds and altogether a nice weather. And in case somebody's wondering, well, that's 66 Fahrenheit, air temp 68 Fahrenheit, track temp with just 2 miles an hour and 43% humidity. And I'll tell you, I've never been to Spain, but I've been to Greece and the humidity was never that low, Joe.
Oh, why do you visit the southern U.S. and try it over there? Because it gets pretty sticky. Meanwhile, let's talk about Let's talk about our sponsors because, as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and, of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team of the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship before we get to that team's championship. And after last week's win, Jesse Stevens has closed into Carl Modoff. It is now pretty tight. And I have to say, I brought up Stephen Ash because that consistency has served him well. Now, he's not that close to Carl, but only 10 points behind Jesse Stevens shows that he could play a factor if things go wrong for the top two. And that is not out of the equation. Of course, Michael Ross and Ignacio Fredes back there in a very tight fight as well for fourth place here in the championship. Let's go to the teams and see what Ossian has for us over there.
Well, it is Full Send Racing in the lead of the championship, and they are, of course, piloted by two wonderful, wonderful guys, Mac Miller and Stephen Ash. Radicals Online still in the second place, Jesse Stevens, Jason Hodgson. Punto CL Racing Blue leading their sister team, Punto CL Racing Red just by 2 points. And rounding out your top 5, it is SRT Esport Blue.
Okay, so we've got viewers who are just tuning in for the first time. Let's run down our race details as we are now past halfway, I should say, of the season in round 6. There's 4 different makes of cars that they are allowed to drive in a series. They're all GTE class vehicles. It is a 60-minute race, and you can expect 1 pit stop. Now, it is open setup in this series, and they do have an incident cap in the form of both a penalty at 13 incidents and a disqualification, an immediate disqualification at 20 incidents. They also have some bonus points on the positive end of things that you can earn there. You saw them below. Now, as always, we're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe to the channel when you get the opportunity. Very easy to do so. Just got to click on the big red button that says subscribe just below. And don't forget, you not only can subscribe to the channel, but you yourself can race on iRacing. Information there on your screen on how to get involved and get out on the track to race with these fine folks that you see right now. Qualifying underway, and Michael Ross, interestingly enough, is our provisional pole sitter, and by a decent margin, I should say, too.
Yeah, he's been finding, well, he was our pole sitter, Jesse Stevens now taking what is rightfully his with a half a second margin. Still early days in the qualifying, of course. Now, finding temps into these tires might prove more difficult than some of these drivers anticipate, because as you can clearly see by the fact that you cannot see, we are racing in the night, and that means cold track temp, cold air temp. That means finding grip into these tires on those early laps is going to prove crucial. And it looks like so far Jesse Stevens has done that excellently. So has Michael Ambrose, so has Christian Eisler. Now for Carl Modoff, well, I don't think it's time to get worried about him just yet, but I want to see him improve on that one. He hasn't put in a good lap yet. He is 1 second behind Jesse Stevens, and he was racing the slower car on Watkins Glen, yes, but in terms of pure raw pace, he has to find that little something.
He's a whole second off of Stevens right now, but as you said, his first lap was his only one that's counted. He must have had an off on that second one. And just a note, since we were talking about him in the points, Stephen Ash is currently sitting in 6th, so not doing too shabby. In fact, Modoff, Cal Quinn in 5th, and Ash behind both of them are very tightly packed together. Just a few thousandths separating 4th to 6th place. That could easily change around as we watch Hodgson down there in 15th, his first time lap finally on the board.
Indeed, and Pfeffer meanwhile rising up to the 4th place also goes into the 137s, and a couple of other guys as well. Brandon Wilson climbing up all the way to 4th place here, so that is some improvement here on the board. But to continue a little bit on the storyline between Jesse Stevens, as we watch Jean-Marc Tremblay, we watch Michael M. Ross now actually. To continue on the storyline between Jesse Stevens and Karl Modov in practice. Now I know, hold your horses, don't come to me with a greased rope. But Stevens was 8 tenths faster in practice. There are just practice times, but 8 tenths faster in practice. Modov improves into 137.5, but Jesse Stevens 37 flat. So still half a second between the championship combatants.
Yeah, usually I would say that when you get to pretty close times between them, practice doesn't mean a whole lot. I'd say when you have wide margins like that kind of makes you sit up and take notice. Romek, who's in 14th, is going to cross and go a little bit quicker. But so, yes, it does actually jump him up to 10th place. So a top 10 start for him if things stay put. There's still 5 minutes left to go, so quite a bit of time for things to change. As Mac Miller, don't think that lap's going to count for him, as he was way off, it looked like, coming off the corner.
Yeah, and that last sector on Catalonia, this is the old version of the track, the superior version. Why is it superior version? Well, I hope we can see if we keep following Brandon Wilson here, because he is gonna come to that point eventually. And when he will, he's actually heading onto the main straight, so he's just exiting the last fast right-hander. But you have three fast right-handers on the last sector, and that's the entire last sector, and each and every one is faster than the previous one. So you accelerate all the way throughout the last sector. Now, that's gonna prove quite troublesome on first lap. That's gonna prove quite troublesome on second lap as well. Then you're gonna start to feel fine about it. But so, once they come to those last laps with old tires, we've seen what old tires can do in this series with these cars. Well, that's gonna prove a little bit troublesome for some of these drivers too, especially if they are a little bit too anxious to get on the throttle.
At least they do have the cool temperatures to try and ease up on that. To watch from Pfeffer's perspective, crossing the line, still only 1 lap down for him at a 37.9, and 4 minutes left to go. He's got to clean up his act soon. Romek also pushing the limits of this track coming out of New Holland. And it looks like he is also going to have that lap not count potentially there. To Hamill as we watch him in 22nd. Looks like he's going to improve to a 39 flat. That's going to get him up to 19th. We've talked about this darkness a lot and how the viewers can't necessarily see. But what about the drivers? How is this going to affect the race for them?
Well, they hopefully know the track by heart by now, so it's not gonna affect them too much. It's gonna affect seeing the braking spots. If you have some braking spots that are way far on the side of the track, like if you use a certain tree or a certain piece of barrier, well, you might not see it that well, but overall the lights are good. They are simulated well on iRacing, and I don't think it's gonna prove too much of an issue. And actually in battles, it might even help them when you're able to tell the cars approaching from your rear view mirror. Of course, something that these drivers can and probably will do and will use to their advantage is that, that thing that GT drivers do, that they're almost like pedantic about flashing the headlights. That thing, they're gonna do that a lot here in the night.
Yeah, I can imagine so, which may frustrate a few and cause some amusement for others. Pfeffer back around again. Can he finally get a second lap in here? Yes, he can, but it's going to be slower. So he'll stay put in that 9th position. Next one up, I think, is going to be James LeBlanc in the 007 machine. He's down in 25th. He's got work to do. Only 3 cars haven't qualified, and 1 other car is behind James LeBlanc. So well down the order today for the New England driver. This time through a 40.1, that's 2 tenths quicker, but that is not enough for him to get out of that 25th spot.
No, not at all. He's gonna have to improve, but thankfully he still has 1 lap to do so. Oh, there was 1 car going way wide in the last corner, and look at the traffic jam that you just saw on the main straight. That was incredible. So many cars on their last lap just trying to put a good time in. Ken Huber coming here. Let's see what he can do. A 38.5, so not improving for Ken Huber. Zach Broderick, no, his lap was not good at all. Villar coming over the line, no. Oh, and there's one car actually off in the last corner. Yeah, I think it was Modov.
It was indeed. So his qualifying's done. He does not have enough time to get around for another lap since he had to take a tow. So Stevens likely has the pole here, unless with Stephen Ash now also off the track, Horatio Calquin can make up 0.6 of a second here. Justin Rame is not too far behind him in terms of time, as well as Michael Ross. That's still a huge chunk for all of them to try and make up, even though they are close to one another. Pfeffer down and across the line. Looks like he was about 1/10 quicker that time.
Yeah, and Calquin is on a lap as well. He is coming just now. Oh, he just went off. Just as I was saying so, Calquin went off, so no need to go to him. Still a couple of drivers who can improve. Carl Modov with 37.5 to expand on your point, 37.52. Stephen Ash, 37.57. Then you got Calquin and Rame as well on 37.6s, and Michael M. Ross on 37.7. So I bet Carr is sweating a little bit because the difference between his second place and the sixth place is just under 0.2 of a second. That's how tight the qualifying is, and that really puts an exclamation mark on the performance of Jesse Stevens as well.
Clock ticks down, and Ken Huber is going to be the first to get the checkered flag. He's sitting in 10th, and he's going to stay in 10th. He doesn't go any faster. Broderick, with his one lap last time, put him in 25th. A 39.2 is actually 0.8 quicker, so that's going to jump him up to 22nd position. A nice improvement at the very end. Jesse Stevens, who's already on the pole, does go faster.
And Ross and Justin Rame both improved on their last lap. Justin Rame 2/1000ths of a second faster than Michael M. Ross, and I believe over on the state side you call those milliseconds.
Indeed, that is incredibly tight. Pfeffer's coming around. He sits in 8th position. He'll be the next one to take the checkered flag. 37.8 was his last lap. That's his quickest. What has he got on the last run? 37.843, 200ths faster for him.
Indeed, and whoa, P7, P8, also Brandon Wilson, Christopher Pfeffer, those guys are 1,000 of a second apart from each other. Carl Modov, yeah, Modov was there on track in pictures, but Ignacio Fredes now on his last lap as well, trying to round out those fast right-handers, trying to use absolute maximum. We've seen drivers go off on the last corner, but he did well there. Can he improve? Oh, 37.9. He can improve a little bit and brings himself just inside the top 10.
Nice improvement. Zach Broderick, did he already finish the lap? I think he may have, because I believe we saw him cross the line after the checkered flag, but he's going to go for it anyway, so maybe he didn't cross it then. Up to 22nd last time. Let's see if there's anything left in this car as he crosses it. Looks like he did finish after the checkered flag. So that's going to be it for a qualifying. It's time to go through the starting grid here today for round 6. Jesse Stevens with another pole. That's another bonus point for him to help in that championship. Justin Rame starts in 2nd with Michael Ross in P3. Carl Modov starts 4th with Stephen Ash in the 5th position. We've got Horatio Calquin with a handy 6, and Brandon Wilson showing up with a lot of speed today, 7th for him. Christopher Pfeffer jumping up to 8th late in the day, and Christian Eisler, surprisingly for him, all the way down in 9th. Ignacio Fredes is going to round out your top 10.
In the 11th place on row number 6, it is Ken Huber with Nicolas Rubilar starting alongside him. Rafael Russo, it feels like he's been always 13th in the qualifying. He is there now as well. Sean Romek, 14th. Ted Lowendick, what can he do from 15th place, and can he hold back Mac Miller, who will start alongside him? Jean-Marc Tremblay, 17th. Kyle Streichhardt, 18th. Brett Herman, 19th. And Sean Duhamel rounding out your top 20 show.
Jason Hodgson in 21st will be followed by Zach Broderick in 22nd. Kenny Rodriguez starts P23. And you've got Jeff Carollo in 24th. And the last 3 drivers to put times in are Louise Pime Jr., James LeBlanc, and Don Olson from 25th to 27th. Now, Rodrigo Mies is here on the grid on our graphics, but I do not see him in this session. I think he's had more connection issues, and this is a shame for a driver who's been so fast earlier in the season. Dave Peterson will line up last on the grid for what we expect to be a 28-car field here today in the night at Barcelona. Before the pace car gets going here in the Porsche, though, the new feature this season that has certainly helped at the start of the racing, although it seems to have incurred a penalty this last time, Ossian. The orange zone, where are we going to today with that?
We start from the start-finish straight, as you would really expect, and we go all the way through turn number 1, turn number 2, all the way to the fast turn number 3, and 10 down to turn number 5, where it ends. So all the way from Elf Renault to Repsol. So the slower right-hander that comes after the almost flat-out one is where the orange zone ends. So pretty much all throughout the first sector.
So not as significant of a chunk as we saw at Watkins Glen, but still a fair amount here that they've got to be careful. The stewards will be watching, and we have seen now that they do not take kindly to incidents, because last week when they did have one, it was, I believe, Cal Quinn actually who was punished, although we'll check on that to see if that's the case. But it is under appeal, actually, the driver that they saw fit to punish. And if they do have to serve it, it will be at the next round. We'll see if that's the case. We'll keep you updated on that storyline. Right now, as they come through Banque Sabadell and up into the final 2 turns, they're going to get the pace car peeling off a little bit early with that pit entry. And then Jesse Stevens will have control of the field. 60 minutes of racing. And Stevens, the few cars between himself and his championship rival. Is this the chance he needs to finally get into the championship lead? Off the final turn of New Holland. Waiting patiently. Ooh, he's really stacking them up here. Taking quite a while to get going. Green flag is out. And it's not a big jump for Jesse, even though he waited a long time for it. Justin Rame just behind him. He's not going to have a good opportunity unless he breaks early. And then look at him start to stack up for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Almost 3 wide back there. And they're cycling through the 1st and 2nd corners. We got a spinner. That's Wilson, and he's going to take a few with him.
Yeah, indeed. It is Wilson who has spun off, and a couple of guys as well. Christian Eisler was one of them. So he's off on the early stages, but otherwise we got some good starts, some bad starts, and some even worse.
Stevens looking good out front, single file between himself to 3rd place. Rame following, Ross in 3rd, side by side for 4th place. Oh, and we got another spinner. Rame losing control through Stayin. That's going to send him off into the gravel, and he's going to have to wait for everybody to go through.
So that is what I thought about earlier on. So that is the
Ross just did the same.
Cleaning up your tires, and that's one of those guys. That's Michael Ross actually going very slow. And other guy going off for GTE as well, that's Pfeffer. So Pfeffer going off, Ross going slow, and a couple of other guys as well having very much difficulty getting their tires into heat. So that's gonna play well and truly into the hands of those guys who have experience.
Miller going slow? No, that's not Miller. I'm trying to figure out who that is. That is, yeah, it's Ross still going slow. He hit the wall. So I thought maybe someone else had some issues, but it was Ross after his damage. Coming, I think it was out of Campsa. Up at the front, Stevens is still leading ahead of Modov.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at what happened in the first couple corners of Elf and the remaining chicane. Slightly after that incident, actually. So it must be the second one.
Yeah, that's the second one. So we're gonna see a replay now. They come through the ultra fast second corner. And you can see they're already, they're trying to line up, they're trying to break into a tighter corner. And then just one car out. That's already one car out, and then you're gonna see a lot more cars going out as we jump into the next shot. This is a difficult curve, really difficult corner to take under any conditions. But when you have both tires, here we're gonna see what happened as they turn onto the back straight, just going wide. So that's going wide, and that's nothing spectacular really, but you know, a simple incident. with dramatic results.
Well, all that drama has been beautiful for Jesse Stevens. 1.7 seconds ahead of Modov is the only unfortunate side of that because Modov survived while everybody around him fell away. So he's gone from fourth up to second relatively quickly.
Yeah, indeed, and Modov was was pretty well off on that one, but he wasn't, he wasn't that fast early on. So I wonder if we're gonna see what we saw on Watkins Glen, where Modov is just gonna sit a little bit further back, and it's gonna be Jesse Stevens running away with it. I hope not, but then again, Jesse has the pace, so you always hope the fastest car wins, but you also kind of hope for some drama as well.
And if I'm whoa, and James LeBlanc's going to go around. I think he got a little bit of help from Rafael Russo, who, if I'm seeing right, is missing his headlights.
Whoa, that's not gonna be nice.
Absolutely. I don't know. There you could see, you saw it on screen before we went to the replay. That was Russo who had a just blank front end, and there's the contact that he made. I guess he has an excuse if without those headlights of why he made that contact.
And here we see it from Russo's angle. So just a tiny bit of a contact, and sending the guy out front, a little bit flying. Well, he has an excuse, yeah, that he has no front lights, but he should still see the rear lights. So that one's not gonna fly. Also, I have an update on you in terms of Michael Ross, in that he lost it on the exit of turn number 7, turn number 8 rather. Turn number 8, the fast chicane. He lost it on the exit there and hit the inside wall, and that's where he got all the damage from. And he's on the pit lane, and his comment, well, that sucked.
I think I concur. So we head back in the field, looking at some of our battles in the mid-pack now. This is for 9th place. Romek is ahead of a train of cars. Lowendick, Jean-Marc Tremblay, Pfeffer's in there. Mac Miller trailing at the end of them.
Yeah, and you see Pfeffer as well, and Pfeffer on the train. Mac Miller losing a bit of ground, Carollo losing even more ground, so a couple of guys right there in the pack, couple of guys already a little bit slower than them, and I'm also looking at Pfeffer's car, and he has damage on the rear end. So that's gonna affect his performance because it is at that critical diffuser. And remember, these GTE cars, they produce a lot of their downforce from that rear diffuser. It is massive, and it's massive for a good reason, because it is a way to provide downforce without adding much drag. You see those wings on the back of the cars? Those add drag. Those add a lot of air resistance. The diffuser, not so much. So Pfeffer, and he almost goes around actually. Almost goes around, just managed to save it, but that's gonna allow Mac Miller to get a chance.
Yeah, he was threatening on Tremblay for quite a while, but his own mistake has put him on the rear guard now. And watch from Miller's perspective. Chases him down into Vert. That's one of those difficult corners you were talking about earlier, which certainly throws a lot of drivers for a loop. Both of them are going to get through cleanly this time at least, but now it's off through campsite.
Yeah, and the exit curve of that corner, which you actually saw Pfeffer hitting quite wildly, didn't throw him off, and meanwhile LeBlanc has gone around as well, so we saw him just returning to the track, and we're gonna go on to the replay with that one. Let's see what happened here. Oh, he just went off and into the wall. Yeah, that's unfortunate for the 007 car.
Second problem for the day. First one not of his own doing. This one, I'd say he's got no one to blame but himself, unless he's got damage from that first incident, I suppose. Stevens, who is our leader, keeps setting fastest lap after fastest lap, and it's showing in the timing as well, because it's 2.1 seconds back to Karl Modov in second place right now. The 36 has this race under control in the early stages.
Yeah, and he's been very impressive so far. And I see no reason why his pace would slow down unless he, of course, drives too fast, wears out these tires, does something a little bit silly. But he hasn't really had any of those problems, when he's been out there on the lead, because Joe, when he's been in the lead, like at Lime Rock Park, like at Watkins Glen, like here, he's been very impressive. It's when he's fighting that problem starts. Pfeffer is getting alongside actually on Jean-Marc Tremblay now for the 11th position and gets through for the 12th position rather. Yeah, and so Jean-Marc Tremblay and able to having to concede one position here. Mac Miller now chasing both.
We take one more look at it since we only saw the very tail end. And he just set him up perfectly. Look at how closely he's able to follow. Going from defending from Mac Miller back to attack very quickly, just mugs him down into Stayin and makes it look easy. And I think I saw Carolo lose some positions here. Checking to see if I can figure out what happened. Oh, actually, this was quite an incident. In the number 52, he has an off, and then it sort of kicks off a chain reaction behind him.
Yeah, he turned in a little bit too hot in there, and you saw it better, Joe. He turned a little bit too hot in there, and then all the drivers had to just, struggle to get past the slow-moving car.
But yeah, he started to spin back onto the track, and wow! I'm trying to figure out who that SRT car that kept it out of the wall, but was dirt tracking through the grass, and somehow came out the other side. But great job for everybody to at least keep racing. There was a little bit of contact between two cars, but nothing major, and all that craziness. What was that?
You want the answer? It was Kyle Strikars.
Ah. Well, credit to Kyle.
Indeed. So Kyle did very well to keep it out of the wall there. That's not easy, but...
Look in on Carl, our championship leader, multi-time champion as well. Right now, with a 2.5 second gap up to Stevens, it looks like that's continuing to fall away from his grasp. Now, he is encroaching upon some traffic. This is Kenny Rodriguez in front of him. I wonder if the traffic could maybe play a part. Rodriguez is actually going to lock him up quite heavily, in fact, into Bonk Sabadell, but doesn't lose the car because of it. Certainly doesn't give great visibility for Carl.
No, well, he's gonna light up the track ahead of him. He's gonna actually be able to see better with the lights illuminating it than not, but I think Kenny's gonna get out of the way pretty soon here. He knows that this car mode off behind him, and he's gonna give way pretty easily. I would hope, at least. I would have liked to see it happen on the straight, but I suppose he can wait just a little bit to give car the draft and then get out of the way. Yeah, here he goes. He keeps to the left and stays nicely and truly out of the way. And Stephen Nash is going to be the next one knocking on his rear bumper. Cal Gwynn in fourth and Rular in fifth. And once again, we are seeing those Punto cars, in P4, 5, and 6. How many times have we seen those same guys on those same positions throughout the season? Every time I look there around P5, it's Punto train.
Yeah, well, here's hoping they can keep out from making contact with each other this race, though, because they've kind of developed a reputation for that, battling as the race goes on and producing unfortunate results in the process. We're only 10 minutes into this race, but things are starting to settle into a bit of a rhythm. One of our front runners who looks like he's back out and trying to make some gains is Justin Rame in the 19th spot. He's got Rafael Russo, car who is unfortunately lacking a little bit of illumination here.
Yeah, and you can see him going very wide indeed, is Russo, and that's gonna allow Rame a chance. Let's see if he can pull it off this time around. Getting a good exit onto the back straight. Gonna see if he goes to the inside. It's a good passing place, and indeed he doesn't. He should be a slam dunk with the Ford GTE, and it is Russo just giving way all nice. Doesn't want to battle it too much. He saw Rame is very fast. He saw him approaching on the mirrors, and I'm sure he's very glad to actually see something ahead of him for a while.
Front row for Justin Rame on the start, and only just took 18th there. There's a lot of racing left for him to try and move upwards, but that's got to be disappointing. Sounds like we've got a little bit of a battle with Roderick.
Yeah, Greg Herman and Zach Roderick, teammates, P7, P8. Let's see how that develops. Greg Herman, very impressive race for him so far. He started 19th, is all the way up to 7th place, and Roderick, his teammate, started 22nd, is in 8th place. So those guys making hay while the sun doesn't shine here at Barcelona. Romek behind them, as well as Loendick. But those guys, well, we see some big losers. We saw some big losers on the first lap, like Justin Rame, losing a lot of positions on the first one, as well as, of course, Michael Ross. he lost a lot of ground, pretty much lost his race. Brandon Wilson as well. But some guys, they've been truly making some massive gains over the course of this early portion.
Yes, just keeping it on the black stuff really pays off today. As it does look to be somewhat tricky here at night based on what we've seen. Maybe it's not the visibility, but the temperatures that they're dealing with. Yeah, you talked about some of those drivers. Just an update. Wilson has DNF'd. He is officially gone. Ross is still taking repairs, so he could yet return. And we obviously saw Rame, who was able to continue. Those were three of our quick drivers that just happened at their races. Lowendick, in the meantime, as we take a look at this battle for 10th, now has Christopher Pfeffer. Here's one who's making inroads as well.
Yeah, he lost a lot of ground early on in the race, but since then he has gained position after position. He's now up to 11th and knocking on the door of a top 10 here. And Lowendick, well, he's gonna have his mirror full of a angry Ford GT. And he's got his teammate as well, Sean Romek, ahead of him. So those Ventus Rennsport cars, well, they might think twice about battling this car, because even though we talked earlier on about Pfeffer's damage on the rear of the car, that hasn't slowed him down too much in comparison to those he has around him. And I think Pfeffer is still thinking, if I can pass those two guys ahead, then I have Broderick as well as Kerman ahead of me. They were slower than me in qualifying, so maybe there's chance for top 7 here. But Pfeffer's gonna have to make moves here, but his line is so good. You can see how planted that car still is. Well, planted and planted, but he can just turn it in so much better than the guys ahead of him.
A telling stat for you, Lowendick set his fastest lap of the race last time at a 38.8. Pfeffer's last lap, a 38.5. So even on his best day, it seems like Lowendick can't hold back Christopher Pfeffer, who goes for an unusual move around the outside of Bunkside Depth. We're going to watch from on board his perspective as they come up to New Holland. This is the most popular spot. The exit of this turn down into Elf. Let's see what kind of exit he gets.
Oh, not too good for Pfeffer. He turned in too early, and he was apexing too early, and he's a little bit wide of the corner. Just a little bit too early once again, so he's not able to put the foot down when he wanted to have to lift a little bit on the exit, and as a result, Dev Lowendick lives to fight another day inside that top 10.
The last move we saw Pfeffer make was into Stayin, actually, which is still coming up, so maybe he prefers elsewhere. He's not as close as he was when we saw him make that overtake before. He's still got quite a few car lengths between himself and Lowendick. Braking now down into Repsol. This is where he likes to mug people into Stayin, and he actually took a little bit of a look, but decides to come back to the racing line, so he's going to stay in 11th, at least for the time being, maybe waiting for a safer opportunity.
Do you know what the corner would be called if it was in Czech Republic?
What's that?
Skoda.
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
I did not know where you were going with that one until you said that.
Yeah, Pfeffer's getting a good exit onto the back straight, actually. He's coming into the hairpin round the outside. Let's see if he can make it through. That Lowendick had to defend the inside, and as a result of that, Pfeffer tries to go for a crossover move here, but can't pull it off. Once again, he's turning in a little bit too hard, too early, and here he goes for a spin, and don't return to the track, please. Wait for the cars to pass by. Well, he's well and truly out of the way with that one, and he's able to gather some speed as well. He lost the rear end, and we see a replay of that right here.
Someone needs to tell him that that is not a rallycross car he's on. Is he? Yeah, I almost wonder if he got caught out being too close to the back of that Porsche.
Yeah, he did, because he was turning in well. He got caught out by going just a little bit wide of the optimal racing line where the grip is, and then he had to go hard on the brakes and turn in. He went a little bit harder on the brakes, trail braking, and turned in at the same time, and that's when the rear end went like, you know what? Remember that diffuser that broke on lap 1? Yeah. And that's when Christopher was like, oh, yeah, right, about that. And then he went for a spin. That's pretty much what happened.
I think he got too much damage going over that curve, too, because you saw him there in the pit lane as we come back to Tremblay, who gains that position back. Now he is in 11th spot, but for how long? Because it looks like he is going to have to defend from Mac Miller. That's number 97 chasing behind him.
And Mac Miller once again quietly making a solid race for himself. He is now up to 12th place after starting 16th, and he's not far from that top 10 either. But so isn't Tremblay. So two of these guys starting 17th and 16th respectively are now up to 11th and 12th, and behind them Louis Prime Jr. Give him a shout out. 25th to 13th, so Louis doing a very good race for himself as well, but in a bit of a no man's land, so let's just focus on this battle here. Tremblay, Mac Miller, Mac trying to follow as close as he can through these fast right corners. We know how difficult it can be to follow another car this close in high-speed corners. Miller doing it very well, being very brave on the throttle as well, getting good exit, and he might have a chance here.
They have a good slipstream. I don't know if it's a long enough straight quite. It's pretty long down to Elf, and indeed, now that they get onto the binders, he's just not near enough to make an attack. It's not just Louise Pime that's climbed up from the back of the field.
Oh, ahead of them.
Thurman
Just
mentioned them earlier.
pass. Can you? Never mind. Go on. I got caught out by a lap car again. I've been doing this for 5 years.
If it makes you feel any better, we had two-class race earlier today, and I forgot that they had started some of the faster class behind them and was talking like they were taking the lead. So, yeah, embarrassing moments happen.
Yeah, and it's night, so you know, I thought it would have been Sean Romek. It wasn't Sean Romek. It was Camille Rodriguez who was a lap down. Yeah, it just surprised me so much seeing them side by side.
Going back to 13th, you talked about Louise Pime. Well, I'd say Junior is going to have to play some defense here because Hodgson and Rame are now right up there. And we know that Rame has speed. So is he going to cause a little bit of a headache for Louise and open up the door for Hodgson to get a spot as well?
Yeah, he's close, and Louis Pime Jr. made a mistake into turn 3. He slid a little bit wide and went under the gravel, and that's why Hodgson is actually so close. But he just had to let Justin Rame through into the hairpin. So Justin Rame also on a charge now, getting led through by Jason Hodgson, and I wonder if Jason is thinking, Rame is faster than me. When he's gonna get past Louis Pime Jr., I'm gonna jump on the chance. Is this what he's thinking, or is he just being a gentleman? I do wonder.
Well, if he was being a gentleman, it's backfiring because he's falling away from that battle now. He's way too far back to try and take advantage of a pass if Rame gets one soon. He's not closing in on Pime down the front stretch. They break into Elf. Let's see if he's quicker maybe in the twisty bits.
Yeah, and the 4GT has been good in fast corners. We know that from Watkins Glen, nothing but fast corners there pretty much, and look who was in the lead. It was a 4GT. And here once again the 4GT is showing its prowess. It was built for Le Mans, and certainly it's taking these fast corners at Catalonia like it took those Porsche curves back when it won Le Mans. I think it was 2017 when it won its comeback, 16 or 17, one of those years. But he's not significantly faster on this first sector than Louis Pime Jr. So, I do wonder. Meanwhile, Hodgson is losing a lot of time to these two. Once again, he's already dropped that car. So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But here we watch Justin Rame. Can he get in on the back straight? No, he can't. He's nowhere near close enough on Louis Pime Jr. So he's gonna have to wait once more to the main straight.
He's still staying within range, a little wide off the exit for Louise Pime. And that's going to give him a very shallow entry into Bonk Sabadell, which is going to cause Justin to close in even more. It's down to less than half a second between them at this point, 2/10 as they come around the final two turns. He needs that good exit. It's looking very smooth. Is this going to be enough? I think he's got a shot.
He might get a shot, even though he turned in too early once again and hit that curb on the inside, but he was still able to put the foot down, so he was getting a slightly better exit, but nowhere near good enough. Had he turned in a little bit later, I wonder, Joe, he would have gotten alongside Louis Pime Jr. easily on that straight. Such is the difference between those two cars, and I guess some of it is down to the drivers as well in the fast corners, but once again, Ray just, he's being a little bit too anxious, I think. He should bide his time a little more and wait for mistakes just like that to come and play into his hand. Of course, he's starting in second place, but he needs to forget about those leaders now. And in fact, I'm looking at the gaps, and he has a 9-second space between his position and the next one, between Mac Miller and Lewis Pime Jr., who he's catching now. So it's gonna be a long afternoon for Justin Ray.
Already, it's been a long afternoon, evening, whichever you want to consider it.
Morning.
So we take a look at this battle between the 27. And who is he fighting with here? It's like this is with Mac Miller. This is Tremblay that we're watching, having a little fight. Keeping half an eye on this, and Rame. Actually, Rame's got a good shot right now. Oh, he just, like you said, too eager. He got a nose inside, but a bad exit out of Bonk Sabadell and just starts to fall away. Let's see if he's been listening to you coming through the final turn. This is looking very good.
Yeah, he's getting alongside and easy slam dunk onto the main straight. He's gonna hold to that inside, I think, because Pime Jr. might come back under braking. Yep, he's gonna hold on to the inside, force him onto a bad entry line. And when he sees the 4 GTE on the apex, he just has to concede the position. And well done by Justin Rame. Textbook pass onto the main straight and nothing doing there for those guys. So ahead of them, Jean-Marc Tremblay and Mac Miller, who just got past the lapped Kenny Rodriguez. This time I remembered it was a lapped car, but those two guys very close to each other now for the 11th place. And I wonder if Mac's gonna pounce already onto the back straight here.
He's awful close. He's waiting behind the number 27, that Porsche, doing everything he can to keep Mac Miller back. As they come down into Lakaja, this is another spot where we often see passes, and even though there's a little bit of a look to the inside, Miller immediately comes back to the racing line. In fact, two very different racing lines for the two different cars.
Yeah, well, Mac Miller was more like a racing line, and it was also a good, solid overtaking attempt line show, because that's what experienced drivers would do there. They try to get a better entry. They see, okay, I'm not gonna pass him on the exit. They try to get a better entry constantly onto the next corner. Just not even try into a fast corner. Instead, focus on the entry, focus on a better apex, focus on the exit, and here's where that's gonna lead to.
Going to lead to a pass down into Elf, because Mac Miller gets to the inside. Tremblay looks for maybe the over-under. Nope. Going to park it at the apex. Miller moves himself up into 11th. Well, we've talked about that spot a lot today.
Yeah, we have been, and let's see if Mac Miller can hold on to that 11th position right now. I do find it funny that the 11th position changed hand in the first corner, because that corner's name is Elf, which of course in German language means 11.
Well, down through Seat or Skoda, depending on what you want to call it. They come up towards Vert now, and Miller's starting to pull away from Tremblay. So it looks like he is getting safe here. Down in 8th place, Sean Romek. We were watching Thurman and he, and now that they really have come together, we don't have to worry about a mistaken lapped car. This could be a fun one.
Yeah, it could be. Romek and Thurman's been a little bit slower than the guys ahead of him, so he's not catching up to them. And I think Romek's gonna see that at this point. Gap between Jack Broderick and Brett Thurman now almost 4 seconds, and that's gonna give Romek the thought of, I wonder if I should get past this guy before Ted Lowendick catches up to us. And indeed, Thurman going very wide on the last corner, gonna allow Romek a chance, but I don't think he's gonna be quite close enough. He's gonna have to be on the very brave on the brake searcher. He's gonna move alongside, but that's gonna be a fake. Yep, it was a fake.
I was kind of with you. It seemed like he could have maybe if he really wanted to, but would have been unwise. Still, he's got to do something soon, or they're going to find Lowendick joining the fray. Wanted to note a little bit earlier that we have lost a number of cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DNFs already. 6 DNFs, actually, with Kenny Rodriguez being the only one who's managed to take repairs and get going.
Oh, and Romek looking very aggressively for that overtaking. He's gonna... Locking up the brakes was Brett Thurman, not able to get it turned in. That's not only gonna allow Sean Romek to get through, but Ted Lowendick as well to get very close indeed. And Thurman, He's gonna try to get back to that one again, but I don't think he's able to just yet. And can I actually cue a replay of that overtake we saw just now? Because there was a very interesting point I want to talk about, Joe.
So let's spool that up and see if we can dissect it. Here we go.
Yeah, Brett Herman, when he came into the corner, you saw the guy behind him, Sean Romek, looking outside, inside, and that I think caught Brett Herman mirror watching. He was watching into his mirrors when he came to the braking zone. He was too far to the right, and as you can see, that's led him onto the dirty stuff. There's a lot of gravel and sand on the outside of that corner, so Herman just had no grip. He locked up the brakes, and that allowed Sean Romek to make a really neat overtake. And that was very well done. That looked very easy. That looked like just, okay, Romek made a mistake. Herman made a mistake, and here comes Plunging.
Down into Elf. He's got the inside, but he doesn't have it done. Nice defense from Thurman. It's not over yet. Will he send another one into the inside of Renault? Not quite. Lowendick keeping him under threat. Now they come up to Repsol. Is he going to stick his nose in? He thinks about it. Shows it. Doesn't quite work a second time. Maybe Thurman's learned his lesson.
Yeah, and this is the next corner where he made a mistake last time, but let's see. On the right side coming in again, but this time a much better entry, being able to turn it in, and as a result of that, getting a very solid exit indeed. But that's one of those lessons you just have to learn, you know, don't focus too much on your mirrors. Even if you see a car very close by indeed, don't focus too much on your mirrors. Just watch if he's coming there. If he's not, just focus on your own doing, select your own racing line and stick to it. And Brett Herman, as a result of that, well, he learned his lesson. He is able to keep on to that 9th place for now, but I think this is going to be a very good one, because Lowendick now, he's close up on him, and he's also seeing that Sean Romek is getting further and further away. So I wonder if the Ventus Rennsport driver is going to want to join his teammate. I'm sure he will.
Absolutely, and I think we had our first scheduled stop, because Russo, at almost exactly halfway, is been in and out. He was well down the field, but this could kick things off a little bit. Really the best battle that I think we've got right now is, other than Thurman and Lowendick being close to one another, don't count out Rubilar and Fredes. This is for a top 5 position.
Yeah, and they're not that far from each other at all, so I wonder. Oh, and Rafael Russo is actually off. And he's gonna retire, and I was wondering, because I went to look at him, they didn't give him new lights in the pit lane, and as a result of that he thought, well, I've had enough of the blind man experience, I don't want to be a referee after all, and he went to the pit lane.
Yeah, I guess they ran out of parts in that team, unfortunately. Meanwhile, this battle continues, if you can call it a battle, as it starts to separate a little bit more. So Fredes, who runs in his Ford GT, not able to quite close in on the BMW. Really, it's stayed closest here between Thurman and Lowendick for P9.
We go on with Teddy, actually onto the hood of Teddy, and you can see ahead of him Brett Herman just thinking about defending the inside and realizing Lowendick's nowhere near close enough. I'm watching these guys through 7 and 8 earlier on in the lap. We're gonna see them as they come onto their 20th lap once again. They're taking a very wide exit off to 8, and we have seen that road curve on the exit of the corner throw very many guys loose. We saw on the very first lap Michael Ross falling victim to that one, and they've been taking some liberties with that one, and that's the kind of corner we thought about it earlier on. It's a difficult one, Joe, and I think it's gonna bite one of these guys before the end of this race.
I wouldn't doubt it. We're only halfway through. Thurman is going to stay safe, at least this time, down into Elf. I'm seeing a lot of dust being kicked up in the first couple corners, I've noticed. I'm not sure what that's about, but it could be disconcerting if anybody goes a little too far offline there. Out of Renault and under the bridge, the scene of the notorious wreck here between the Mercedes teammates into Repsol, but these two going to stay out of each other this time. And Mac Miller, look at this. 0.7 of a second back to the number 97. He suddenly wants to join in.
Indeed, and he's not feeling light tonight at all. He's going very well ahead, is Mac Miller, and you know, I'm seeing him and watching him, and the way he made that overtake, made those overtakes work earlier on. He's been a very stable driver. He hasn't been the most flashy driver throughout this season, but he's been very stable. So I wonder what's gonna happen when he joins this battle he sees developing ahead of him. And that's now gonna be Thurman, Lowendick, and Mac Miller as well, all in the same picture. And I'd wager that Mac Miller is gonna pull out the winner of this one.
I have to wonder, because usually we don't see undercuts. Well, there we go. Brett Thurman is going to be the first to pull in. But I thought it would be the cars behind to try and pit first.
Yeah, that was a bit of a late decision for him. I think he noticed at that point, Mac Miller is joining this one as well. I don't fancy making it a three-way battle. I'm gonna pit right here. Let's see if his pit stop works and where that's gonna leave him in this battle. Brett Thurman now trying to exit the pit lane. He's already revving the throttle. I'm not sure the mechanics will fancy that too much as he tries to get as good of an exit as possible and good as short of a pit as possible, but he's gonna find himself a nice little gap here because Donald Olson is not yet onto the main straight and he has a lot of gap ahead to Jeff Carollo as well, so he's in a very, very good gap. And as a result of that, he's gonna find himself a lot of empty real estate to put those lap times in and start to gather his bearings once more.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason why we saw Brett Thurman pull in. Maybe he was aware enough that he figured out he would come out into this open space. As Miller is still chasing. We were riding on board with him down the front stretch a little earlier behind Ted Lowendick. Let's see if those two will decide to pit this time because they're coming to the end of the lap now around Lakaija. Up in front of them, Romek still keeping a healthy distance. Just about 2 seconds between himself and those two behind. Down through Europe car. Romek's going to stay out. Lowendick's going to stay out. And Mac Miller is going to stay out. Nobody responding.
No, not yet. And they don't really have a reason to respond either at this point of the race because really they're not battling just quite yet. Mac Miller is catching up, but he's in a good draft. He can save a little bit of fuel if he wants to. And he knows that that race car being piloted by Ted Lowendick is not a slow one at this point in the race. 38.6 compared to Romek, who did a 39 flat, compared to Jack Broderick, 38.8. So he's well in the pace of the cars surrounding him. So I wonder if Mac Miller is going to bring this all the way to the optimal pit stop position, which is going to be in around 5, 6, 7 minutes probably, as we jump on to Jean-Marc Tremblay, who's just exiting the pit lane. That's a beautiful shot, by the way. The one we saw just now, that was a beautiful shot of the main straight here. I must say, Joe, it's a glorious circuit by day, but at night, we haven't usually seen Catalonia at night, and it really, truly comes to life.
It's
Spanish
very
nights, man. Spanish nights.
Yeah, exactly. Tremblay in and out without too many dramas, and he's ahead of Brett Thurman with that pit stop, so that makes Tremblay our highest pitter now. So that is interesting that we've got a couple pit stops starting here mid-race, but neither really what we would have expected in terms of strategy. I think we should be getting somewhat close to the end of the pit window because usually we get about 40 minutes of fuel from these cars. Fredez, who is also in from up towards the front, I think he should come out in front of Tremblay.
Yeah, he should, and I think he will unless he screws up his pit stop major time. And we also see Louis Palm Jr. now taking the pit lane option, so he's gonna come onto the pit lane as well from P number 13. Let's see where he's gonna fall on this one.
Ooh, and Romek is in too.
And Fredez is here in as well. Yeah, he's just exiting the pit lane. So I wonder where Fredez gonna land. He's gonna land, alongside Kenny Rodriguez, but he's a lap down, so... And that
Are
means
you sure
that
he's a
also
lap down?
Fredez is... Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure he's lap down. I think I learned my lesson by now. Thank you, Joe, for that one.
Sorry, could resist. Fredez, is now our highest pitter as he comes back out, still within the top 10. And like you said, without really anything in the way of traffic in front of him since he got out ahead of Rodriguez, so he's looking very handy after that stop. Who else are we going to get from the front of the pack? Romek returns not only in front of Thurman, but in front of Tremblay, too. The 71 with a quick stop. Actually, Tremblay was the quickest stop I'm seeing of those three right now.
And Stevens as well. So the leaders are pitting. Jesse Stevens, Carl Modov, just outside of commentary booth here, do come the two combatants. And last time by their gap, 6.3 seconds. What a race by Jesse Stevens. Modov hoping he can. Oh, Modov actually missed his pit stop. That's gonna cost him some time.
Zach Broderick. Zach Broderick missed the pit entry.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
If you want an amazing onboard, he narrowly avoids disaster, but does he have enough fuel to actually get around another lap because everybody else is coming in?
And here we jump on board of him. That is not what you want to see. Oh! That was close. That was close. And, you know, bring the guy some new pants. That's what I'm going to say. But yeah, that's a good point, Joe. Is he going to make it around for another lap? It's going to be
that would have been a monster wreck, and this is going to be some incredible fuel saving, I think, because I really don't think he's got enough in there to try and make it around at normal pace. In fact, it looks like he is going quite slow at the moment. Stevens has finished his pit stop, returns in the lead. Everybody else behind does seem to be pitting now.
And I'm still watching Broderick. And, well, he still looks like he's gonna make it because it's not a long way to go from here on out. Okay, he's just turning onto the back straight, and yeah, he's lift and coasting pretty much. He's got Dave Peterson a lap down behind him, and I'm wondering, comparing the pace of these two drivers, but Peterson, well, he's a little bit catching just by a little bit, so it doesn't look too far off from him just yet. I think he just might make it. Yeah, he's gonna make it.
Still, this is a great opportunity tossed into the trash bin because remember, he started 22nd. Yep. He was up within the top 10. Now is he going to make it in? Don't miss it a second time, buddy. There we go.
Yeah, don't go to Lewis Hamilton driving school of pit entries.
Now he's heading down into his stall. I wonder how much he's going to lose because that can't have been a very fast lap at all. But how much lift and coast he needed to be able to get around.
Yeah, and here's our leader, Jesse Stevens. Pretty much a perfect race so far from him, really. He hasn't put a wheel wrong. He's been very good all throughout the race. Gonna regain that lead now. Broderick as well getting underway, and he's 9.3 seconds ahead of Carl Modov now. So that's very good for Jesse Stevens.
What amazes me is the response that Stevens has had since the start of the season, because consider Modov winning 3 out of the first 4 races on the trot, and now we're suddenly in round 6 looking at Stevens tying him up 3 wins to 3 wins if he stays put where he is. Not often do we see drivers be able to step up the way he has to Carl Modov in these last couple rounds and take the race back to him.
Yeah, he had the pace earlier on as well, but he lost a lot of ground to his own mistakes pretty much. He was his own worst enemy in a lot of those close battles, being a little too aggressive and getting caught out as a result of that as well. He could take the battle to Carl Modov a couple of times. We saw that earlier on, but he wasn't quite able to pull through apart from Lime Rock Park, which was really a case of tire conservation as well. But now lately, since Watkins Glen and here at Catalonia, he has truly come to form as Jesse Stevens. And I wonder if he took a long look in the mirror and went, if I just dial it down a little bit, try to drive my own race, practice harder, get better, I can get to Modov. I can beat him. I can not only challenge him, but I can beat him. And the good thing for Jesse Stevens has been that it's always easier to teach consistency than it is to teach pace. He had the pace, now he just had to get the consistency down. He's done a little bit more practice, I reckon, and he's found a bit more pace, and as a result of that, that Ford GTE is right now the car to beat.
Now, before we get to a mid-pack battle that I'm seeing that we've been watching before, I want to give an update on Broderick. Actually didn't lose as much as I thought. Maybe a little bit of time, but he's still in 7th position. If I recall, he was actually about there, or maybe 6th place. Yeah, he was in 6th, I'm hearing. So only one position lost for what could have been almost catastrophic for him in this race. That is a good recovery. So credit to the Porsche driver for, or excuse me, BMW driver for not losing out more. Now, the battle that I wanted to talk about is just behind him for 8th place. Lowendick leads Romek, leads Miller. That's going to sound familiar. They found themselves once again after the pit stops.
Indeed, so and those guys have been at it all race long. Lowendick, Romek, Miller, Justin Renault actually approaching right behind them as well, and he's gonna be an interesting wild card in this one.
That may change things up in this group since they've been stuck for a little while now. Rame, let's see what kind of pace he's doing. Last lap for him, a 38.4 I'm seeing, whereas Miller did a 39.4. Ooh, that's a good chunk of time, honestly.
Yeah, that's a lot of time for those guys. Of course, Lowendick, Romek, Miller, they just freshly out of the pit lane as well. They gonna have to get these tires back up to temps and get used to the fat fuel load in there. These are heavy cars right now. They have to take them all the way to the end. Well, not heavy cars, but fueled a little bit more than they were before the pits, obviously. So they're gonna have to get used to that one. But I think they know after the pit stops, it is the battle flag that is raised, and it is time to fight for these top 10 positions. 8th place at stake. Can Ted Lowendick hold on? Can Romek do anything? What will Mac Miller do? He and his consistency. He's the man I betted to actually win this battle. Or is it gonna be Justin Renault sweeping them all and taking those sweet, sweet points? Such sweet points.
Well, as Ossian gets poetic, just an update. Let's stick the cameras. Let's keep them on this battle because this is really what's interesting right now. But Stevens is now 10.8 seconds ahead of Karl Modov. He's definitely scampered away from him and, again, has control of things. It's only going to be his own mistakes that throw away the win here today in the final 15 minutes. Stephen Ash looking at podium number 5 in a row. At this point, he's going to be regretting race 1 if he keeps this up, being the only one that he hasn't been on the podium. In fact, I'm curious to see, has anybody else got that many podiums so far this season? Giving a little bit of love here on camera.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that for you actually, if I can find the correct standings in terms of the podium.
Don't do like me and look at the qualifying. Stephen Ash watching
and
me
I
come
won't
around
look
the
at the
final
lap
few
cars.
corners. Yeah. Let's head back to the cameras on Rame and Miller, because that's down to less than half a second now as they come down the front stretch. And if Miller's been paying attention, he'll know that he's got a fast car coming up. I hope he's aware, because he's going to have some action in a moment if he doesn't keep his head up. Watch from Rame's perspective now as we fly through Renault to Repsol, continuing to chop down on the time. That car looking very good. Such a shame that he had a bad moment at the very start of the race, because that Ford is looking mighty. He maybe could have had something for Stevens today if he had just managed to stick with it on those cold tires.
Indeed so, indeed so. And yeah, it's been a very, very interesting season in terms of results as well. And that's something that I'm actually wondering, you know, it's been kind of story of 2 seasons so far. When you look at those guys, when you see these battles and when you look at those guys, it's been a story of 2 seasons. You had early on, it looked like Karl Modov's gonna run away with it, but now in this battle and in this race, Stevens is back to it. But here is the battle: Lowendick, Romek, Miller, and Rain, and all of them in the same pictures. 3 of them gonna finish inside the top 10. 4 of them is gonna finish in position number L. Who do you reckon? I said already earlier, Mac Miller is gonna take it, but Joe, who's your bet?
Miller doesn't look like he's been able to do anything now that he's got in the back. So I think that he's going to be the one that finishes in 11. And they come down into Elf this time. It's closed up between Romek and Lowendick too, but almost looks like Romek is stalling out a little bit, very tight to the rear wing of Miller. Rame not able to attack, but definitely threatening.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the answer to your question, and I think Stephen Ash and Karmodov have an equal number of podiums this season. Both have missed out once on the trophy ceremony.
Fascinating. So, if Jesse Stevens maybe would have had a couple better results, he could be leading this championship after today. Modov not going to lose enough points, I think, to hand it away if things stay as they are. There was a big slide out of Seat from Mac Miller, but it didn't hand it over to Rame quite yet. Ooh, that Ford this time, the one making the mistake coming out of Vert.
Yeah, and you see turn 7-8, the bird that you just mentioned, he got a little bit too wide, and as a result of that, had to correct his steering wheel and compromised his exit. But those leading duo, Lowendick and Romek, getting really close to each other right now. Miller and Rame, I think they're just watching at this point. They're biding their time a little bit. They know there's still a lot of time left. 11 and a half minutes, as a matter of fact. There's still time to get those positions, to pounce on them. Just wait for your chances, be consistent, be calm about it. Once again, Rain behind them. I was looking at him, he got a very early turn into the last corner and he lost a bit of time as a result. As they come to the main straight, you can see just how they are closing up little by little from the rear wing picture. And Ted Lowendick, he's not in a position I envy right now, not at all.
He's staying smooth under pressure, though. Got to give him credit for that. Ooh, oh, just a little bit too shallow on entry into Renault for Justin Rame. I thought maybe he have an opportunity on Miller, but he's going to fall back. Instead, it's Miller getting close to the back of Romek now through Repsol. Ooh, and he actually could make an attack. Romek not going to cover him off. They're going to stay in line down through the plunging left-hander. Very different lines exiting the corner from all four.
Yeah, you can see the differences between makes there and differences between driving styles as well. Justin Rame, he has had the pace down, but he's just turning in a little early to every corner. I wonder if that's a setup thing for him, if he needs to turn early to make that car stable or something, but it doesn't look like quite the optimal line. But if he has really stiff anti-roll bars on the front, for example, then yeah, he needs to turn early to make the car rotate, as opposed to these guys who can wait a little bit and then turn in on the optimal line. So you see these guys and you see Mac Miller, he's once again able to get a little bit wider on the entries now that Justin Rame is not quite breathing on his neck in every single corner. And when he's able to do that, that's going to spell trouble for Sean Romek because he's going to get those better exits. Let's see onto the main straight right now.
This is looking the closest we've seen. I think Rame's got a good opportunity. They're all being towed along behind Lowendick. And that's not going to help him because Miller manages to maintain speed. They're all four going to stay in position. You know, the other thing I'm wondering about is maybe with those cars breaking the air in front of him, if maybe Rame is just dealing with understeer because he's got no clean air.
Yeah, and Romek went really wide as well. Speaking of understeer, he's gonna defend the inside line, but he's gonna be on the dirty line, breaking himself a little bit wide. Mac Miller's gonna come back on the crossover. He looked into it on the last lap as well, and look how wide that Porsche of Sean Romek is right now. Mac Miller finding no way through so far, but he's gonna have to just stay patient, bide his time, and wait for his opportunity to shine. Unfortunately for him, Justin Rame's not making it easy, but Rame has fallen back once more. So look at these guys, Lowendick and Romek, they're teammates as well. I think they have come to a realization at this point in time that one of us is gonna have to hold these guys back in order for the other to run free and make them battle for the 9th place instead of the 8th place. And Romek, after a couple of mistakes, I think he's gonna play a little bit more of a rear gunner at this point and not focus so much on the 8th place of Ted Lowendick right now.
Every time it gets tantalizingly close between these three. Oh, and a little bit of a mistake through Europe. Car backs it up early, does Mac Miller into the final corner, but it doesn't help because Justin Rame is right there. Could we see 3 wide, though? Romek with a mistake as well, and he's slow. Miller to the inside. Rame, does he try it? Yes, he does. He's going to make it 3 wide in the dying stages of this race. A 2 on the cards. Oh, he's way too shallow, and he's going to get hit. Miller plows into him.
Well, Justin Rame getting very brave on the brakes there. and braking a little bit too late. Just lost it at the end of the braking. We're gonna see a replay of that one as well. You can see him going 3 wide. That's all fine and dandy. You have to brake late if you're 3 wide on the inside. He braked late, lost it on the entry, and then just came across the track and plowed right into Mac Miller, innocent Mac Miller, who was just trying to get a good exit of the corner. And due to his velocity, Sean Romek braking also late on the outside, he was able to get away scot-free of that one. So he's now gonna chase his teammate Ted Lowendick, and those guys take each other out. And meanwhile, we have a battle for P number 5 here, Joe, between Rubilar and Fredette.
Yeah, we watched a little bit earlier and it went apart. Now it's come back together. By the way, we were both wrong. It was Tremblay who wound up in the Magic Elf position. So who would have thought as we watch this fight down the front stretch, Fredette still giving chase. This time it is Ford versus BMW.
And you asked who would have thought. I know it's a saying, but probably an answer, all the viewers. Speaking of us being wrong. They're like, yep, no surprise there. Carry on, as usual.
Right on board with the Ford. And Fred is still doing what he can as the flashing lights of Rubilar make sure and get Donald Olsen out of the way. We're actually down to 16 cars left on the lead lap, by the way. Quite a bit of the field has gone down behind the leader for a second time.
Fredette hits his teammate. Fredette hits his teammate Rubilar. Rubilar made a mistake going into the corner, into the Seat corner, and as a result of that, Fredette just hit him. And we're gonna see a replay of that one. Not what you want to see at all.
Now, which team are those two in?
Punto CR Racing.
Yeah.
I think you have mentioned something about Punto guys being kind of magnetic to each other. Maybe they're taking a page out of the Mercedes handbook of how teammates should behave around each other. Unfortunately, they landed in year 2014.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say that their name unfortunately lends itself in English to some unfortunate jokes. So that did not turn out well for either of them. We take a look at Jesse Stevens, the Georgian driver. Man, wow, he left Modov behind. I last mentioned it was just over 10 seconds. 14 and a half seconds now. He's got incredible pace. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, he just checked out, and like I mentioned last week, well, you said something about, not wanting to go to a restaurant with me, but he has truly checked out and escaped from the bathroom window, leaving everyone else to pay the bill. Jesse Stevens, if he can keep this up, even Karl Modov is gonna have trouble. Now, of course, we have to mention car differences. The Ford GD is very good on fast tracks like this one. Jesse Stevens, he's driving a Ford GD. A lot of fast corners at Barcelona, a lot of fast corners at Watkins Glen as well. I wonder if Modov's gonna be able to come back as the season rolls on, but so far, it's been very, very impressive for Stevens. Not only how he has driven, but also how he's been able to get himself going after a shaky mid part of the early season.
Bad news for the fans of Nicholas Rubilar. He seems to have either gotten a penalty for too many incidents, or he's had to get some repairs. Whatever the case, he's been in and out of the pits and has lost a whole lot more positions here late in the race. We've jumped back to Romek. Well, other cars may have separated after what we saw down into turn 1, but Lowendick and Romek, who are teammates, are still together. And
Miller,
I don't know
Mac
if
Miller, side by side with Jean-Marc Tremblay for the 10th place. Yeah, onto the back straight they come. Mac Miller made a mistake on turn 7 and 8, went a little bit wide to the grass. Let's see if he's gonna be able to hold off Tremblay. No, he's not. Tremblay to the inside, but once again, Mac Miller gonna fight back onto the third to last corner, and he's able to get ahead, but once again Tremblay comes. This is excellent show.
Side swiped around a long right-hander, and somehow they both hold onto it. Tremblay staying with it. He's looking for the launch off the final turn. And behind them, don't look now, here comes Justin Rame again. Tremblay doesn't quite look like he's close enough, but he is gaining. Oh, maybe he is close enough. Is there damage slowing down Miller on the straights? If it is, it's mercifully for him not enough to lose out to Tremblay.
Yeah, remember he took Justin Rame right to his nose, and as a result of that, the nose of that car is not the way the factory intended at all. So as a result, he's losing a lot of ground on a straight line, trying to make it up in the corners. Maybe that resulted in the mistake in turns 7 and 8 last time by. Let's see if he can make it clean through this time. Jean-Marc Tremblay right behind him. Oh, Rame spun. Rame spun behind him
Another
as
one.
well. Yeah.
That's a lot of mistakes for Justin today. And a lot of dust as well.
Indeed.
Yeah, just slides it off backwards. Thankfully doesn't hit anything. He's able to keep going. And I don't think he lost a position. He just stayed in, well, guess what position? 11th.
Yeah, and
Going
meanwhile,
back to
ahead of
7th
them.
place.
Yeah,
Exactly.
ahead of them, 7th place, yeah, Lowendick and Romek. Romek's been able to get closer to his teammate once again, so, you know, it looked momentarily that Romek was out of it, but, you know, this time by, they're right next to each other, right behind each other, I should say. How can you be right behind each other?
I'm not sure. As Ted Lowendick is actually going to reel in Romek with the slipstream. He tried to pull off to the side. Looks like Romek's not going to have enough straightaway. I just assumed it was that Murray
Justin
Walker.
Rame! He did what a couple of other guys were barely able to avoid. He spearheaded himself into the pit wall.
And
This is
now,
gonna be
I
a
guess,
spicy replay. He just lost it on the
Yep.
entry. Look at it. Bam!
Oh, that's what I was worried about. If you did do that, is that it's a big wreck and a lot of damage comes out of it. He does get the car going somehow, but now he really does have to come into pit lane. And this might be the end of the day. We are actually on the final lap. We just got the white flag, and Jesse Stevens, who is coming through the first couple corners, is up to 15.5 seconds.
Yeah, and he has truly made this his playground. 15.5 seconds to car mode off is something I didn't think I would be saying throughout this season.
Me neither.
His pace has been incredible, and I know we showered him in praise throughout this race, Jesse Stevens, but he has deserved all of it. You can't really find enough superlatives to describe Jesse Stevens' performance out here today. It's just been world class, absolutely world class.
We've seen many strong teams come and go here on GSRC. And though the Radicals at one time had a lot of drivers that we saw up at the front, it's been a minute. Jesse Stevens is looking to try and correct that. And so far this season, he has made them a name that is across many people's tongues once again. As he comes around the final few corners, all there is in front of him is just a couple lapped cars. Ironically, one of them, Michael Ross, who could have been someone who challenged him. And then Rubelar, who is out and going once again. As Stevens circles his way around Europe car and then through New Holland. Victory today, his third win of the season for the number 36 car.
Flashing his headlights, and no wonder. Second place gonna be Modov, and P number 3 is gonna be Stephen Nash, but I'm still curious about P number 7. That battle, they still got over half a lap to go on that one. Ed Lowendick, Sean Romek, and behind them, Mac Miller has gone out actually on the last lap. He lost a position to Tremblay and he has spun. Oh, that's a weird one. His wheel broke.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Wonder if he
definitely
blew
that was a
a
hardware
wheel out.
failure. Let's get a replay of that one later on, after the race is over, because we still got a battle for P number 7. And Joe, Lowendick, Romek, do you think we're gonna see them go really, truly head-to-head, toe-to-toe, fist for fist in the last lap, teammates? Romek's gonna run out of time, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think even if they are, it's just not close enough. And indeed, Lowendick is going to get that 7th spot. For those curious, looks like Brett Thurman is going to get that wonderful 11th place that we've seen so much of. The number 69 car is actually coming around the last few corners. It's not going to catch Mac Miller, I don't think, who is actually going to cross the line in the pit lane of all places.
Yes, because I think he got a penalty from that last lap incident. He crossed 13 and has to get a drive-through on the last lap. But I don't think that's gonna count because he crossed the line on the pit lane side.
That's true. We'll find out after everything is done. We've got the replay of Miller's spin. Let's see if we can pull that up here and try and figure out what happened. We've seen this before. They don't have the tires come off like on the new damage model, but we've seen tires blow out. Is this what you're saying?
Oh yeah, that was a blowout. That was a total blowout. Sorry, I thought it was a hardware failure the way that went. But on the exit of the corner, look at the car choke on the exit. Right here.
Wow.
That's a blowout.
Oh, and a big hit into the barrier on top of it.
And you're gonna see it,
this is Romek we've got on the screen. We want Miller.
Yeah, but I don't mind looking at Romek's car either. That was a nice car, but yeah, we want another look of Miller. Well, here is the aftermath as well, and he's gonna head off into the pit lane, and that's gonna be 2 incident points for him, and I think that was what broke Camel's back, because surely he wouldn't have pitted on the last lap with a blown tire, because, he was gonna cross the finish line anyway. I want to see where he is on the final results. Yeah, he's 13th on the final results, so he went to the pits, tried to, serve the drive-through, but he crossed the finish line before the penalty had cleared. So as a result of that, he got tossed all the way down to the last on the leading lap, which fortunately for him was just 13 guys. But I think with those thoughts, Joe, it's gonna be a time to watch some of our wonderful commercial partners bring us some wonderful messages.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break here. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. It has been an interesting race today, and one that certainly seems to affect the championship, because up at the top, Jesse Stevens took the victory for the 3rd time this season over Karl Modoff, who came home in 2nd. Heather's woes certainly limited the damage he felt in the points, because he was not on pace with Jesse Stevens, even though he finished in 2nd. It was a whole 16 seconds at the line between them. Stephen Ash, his 5th podium in a row for 3rd place. Horatio Calquin took the 4th, with Ignacio Fredes finishing in P5. Then you got Zach Broderick. I said that maybe he threw away what could have been a fantastic run. Well, he still went from 22nd to 6th, despite missing his pit stop on the first way through. I hope he comes in so we can talk to him. Ted Lowendick finished in 7th, ahead of that race-long fight with Sean Romek, who finished 8th. Jean-Marc Tremblay was P9, and Brett Thurman was in 10th. But the one people want to know, Ossian, is who finished in 11th.
It was Jason Hodgson bringing up the Elf prize for finishing 11th. ahead of Nicolas Rubilar, who I'm sure would have wanted that much coveted position. Mac Miller, heartbreak for him, was en route to a top 10 finish, and on the last lap, it all went from wound out 13th and last on the lead lap. Jeff Carollo 1 lap down 14th, Kyle Streichhardt 15th, Luis Pime Jr. 16th, Donald Olson 17th, Sean Duhamel 18th, Justin Rame 19th, Dave Peterson rounding out their top 20 and 10 after him. It's pretty much a list of retirements. Kenny Rodriguez, Michael M. Ross, Christian Eisler, Rafael Russo, James LeBlond, Christopher Pfeffer, Brandon Wilson, Ken Huber, and then it was Rodrigo Mies who didn't even manage to start the race due to, I presume, some technical difficulties. But show, from technical difficulties, we go on to no difficulties whatsoever. I believe you have our race winner up there in the interview position.
We do. Jesse Stevens is with us. And Jesse, you are one of the few drivers up at the top of the field who seems to have not suffered from the cold tires at the start of the race. Did you have anything special for them, or were you just careful because we saw so many spins and off tracks from those of you who were close to you on pace?
I did a lot of practice this week, primarily for those first few laps, because I knew it would be really tricky considering the setup you need to run for this track. It needs to be really aggressive, so it's going to be really touchy in the opening laps. I just took it easy, hit my marks, and then waited for the tires to feel like they came in, and then I put my head down.
The downside to all those close to you in pace falling away, even though it gave you a good gap at the beginning, Karl Modov found himself in second very suddenly and obviously got second. So even though you have earned more points on him, is it frustrating to see that you are making very small inroads with these wins over him?
Not really. It's actually really cool to see him. No matter where he seems to qualify in the grid, he seems to find his way into second place, whether it's misfortunes of others or just out racing them. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, we have 4 rounds left. I can't remember what the point standing is right now, but I know I was like -8 going into it, so I think it'll be close.
Yeah, it'll be close. I'm not sure that you'll overtake him. It'll somewhat depend on the bonus points. How did you feel about racing in the night? Obviously, you talked some about the temperature and how it affected things. Were you bothered at all by the visibility tonight?
No, because like I said, I did a ton of practice. I did an official race on Thursday or something like that, and raced with Esteban Guini, which was really cool. But he showed me a lot of things, a lot of turn-in points to look out for in the night in certain corners that you can't see. So it really helped to drop my times about 2 or 3 tenths. So
Glad to see drivers sharing some tips like that, and it certainly seemed to make a difference today. Again, congratulations on the victory. Before you head off, anybody you want to thank?
yeah, just all the guys over at Radicals Online. Like I said, we got a nice group of guys on week in, week out working on IMSA and ILMS sets for the Ford. Um, so yeah, big shout out to those guys.
And that was Jesse Stevens, our winner here today for Barcelona. Up next, Ossian has caught up with second place finisher Karl Modov.
Indeed, I have. Thank you for that show. And Car, well, second place finish, very tight point standings near the top. But let's go back to that race. 16 seconds to Jesse Stevens. Was that a bit of a shocker for you?
No, not really. It's he's driving good. He's obviously putting in a lot of practice, and the Ford's tough to beat right now. So um, I thought I had pretty good pace at the beginning, and when I really started dialing in, it's like every time I found a little bit of time went faster, he went faster, and then eventually the gap gets so large, it's just easy to lose focus here, there, and then the gap grows even faster because you're not as focused as you would be if you're actually in the race. Um, so yeah, props to him. Congrats. He drove great and just left me in the dust. I didn't have the speed today, so whether it's 2 seconds or 16 seconds, it's tough to lose. But hopefully some of these other rounds will, I can come back at him.
Yeah, Car. So as we progress on to the season, I know what you mean, by the way, by the losing focus thing. It could have easily been 5 seconds or 16 seconds. But yeah, Jesse has really been searching with his pace lately. We know Watkins Glen and to an extent Barcelona as well are 4 GD tracks. Do you think you can come back at him later on in the season, or are you actually a little bit worried about that championship, that it may not be as easy as it looked to some of us on the early parts of the season?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Silverstone's the next track, which is very fast. So, I'm going to have a hard time. I was really bummed that Rodrigo had some issues. I was, excited to see that he switched to the Ford. I figured he would be able to definitely give Jesse a run for his money. And I was hoping, them mixing it up a little bit would cost them, a couple tenths here or there each lap. And allow me to kind of stay in it long enough to maybe take advantage of something. So unfortunately, he dropped out. But yeah, future rounds, Silverstone's quick, so he's going to be real hard to beat there. And then we're going to go to Mid Ohio and Sonoma. I really like those tracks, and I think they'll suit the strengths of the Porsche a little more. So I'm hoping to kind of gain back if I lose the lead there. And then we're going back into, I think, a strong Ford track in the season at Road Atlanta. So it's going to be tough. It's going to go down to the wire. I think whoever drives and takes advantage of the tracks that they're strong at the end is going to probably walk away with this thing. So it should be fun. I think it's going to go down to the wire. And looking forward to next week. I don't like Barcelona very much from a driving standpoint. So this was my most looking forward to getting past the season. So happy to get in the books and to get a good result.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty conclusive, Car. One more question for you, though. For our viewers, all of them who have been watching the PRL GTE series all throughout the season, they are obviously excited, hyped up for the championship battle between Jesse Stevens and Karl Modov, gonna come right down to the wire. For them, why do you think Karl Modov is going to win this season? What can you do that Jesse Stevens cannot?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I don't really know. This is my first season ever racing against Jesse, and I think he's gotten a lot stronger throughout the season. I don't know if he just started taking it a little more seriously after losing a couple races, or what. But he's driving really strong right now. So I just need to get back practicing a little bit more. I could have made that gap closer. I couldn't have won today, but I could have made less mistakes and had better focus throughout the race. So yeah, going forward, if I'm going to win the championship, I need to just make sure my focus stays good. You guys know these sims are super hard to drive, and when you start losing focus, it only takes half a millisecond to lose everything. So if I'm going to win, I need to make sure that stays nice and strong.
Yeah, thank you, Karl Modov, and good luck to you for the next race.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks, PRL, GSRC, Delta Sport, Move Up, and Shout. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Karl Modov. And next up, we have Joe Peak, who has caught up with our final podium finisher once again.
Stephen Ash with his 5th in a row now this time. Stephen, though, let's start at the start of the race. And you were one of those drivers that benefited as well with everybody else kind of flying by the side. So what's going through your mind as the first lap goes on and one car goes off, then another car goes off, and another car goes off?
Yeah, so that kind of seemed to be a theme for me this season. My qualifying hasn't been the best, so I've been starting mainly between the 4th and 7th position. So yeah, it was just another day of that. Just clean start of the race. Was going side by side with Karl Modov there through the first couple of corners, and then a couple guys ahead of me just went off and wound up in 3rd place. And just kind of put my head down. Then was in no man's land a little bit because Karl had a little bit better pace than me, and I think it was Horatio Calhoun behind me who just didn't have the pace to keep up. So yeah, it was just a day of running my own race, really. A little bit of a boring race and just conserving tires, conserving fuel, and getting home for that podium. Yeah, 5th in a row, really, really happy.
Interesting stat for you. Only you and Modov have done this so far this season. 5 out of the 6 rounds with podiums. Nobody else has managed that. Does that feel good to know you're in that sort of company?
Yeah, that feels really good. I mean, Jesse and Modov, they're great drivers, so it's really nice to be up there with them. And yeah, just really, really happy with the results so far. Just super happy to have all my hard work pay off. Practice all week, run the official series all week, then to come in and do the job, get the podium. Just really happy about it.
We talked some to Modoff about tracks that might be stronger for him coming up, and you in the Porsche here. Are there any tracks that you think that should suit you pretty well in the remaining 4 races?
I think Mid Ohio is going to be a really good one. That's going to be a really interesting race we do there. Not a lot of guys run that track much. I myself have run it quite a bit, so I think I'm going to be really quick there. This upcoming race at Silverstone next week, I don't think I'm going to be too quick, mainly because I don't know if you guys know, but the Nürburgring 24 hours is happening this weekend, so I'm going to be doing a lot of practice for that instead. But yeah, it should still be a good race.
Yes, I have a feeling a few drivers are going to be distracted by that. Again, congratulations on another podium. Hopefully, we'll get to keep talking to you like this.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Stephen Ash, your third place finisher here today in the PRL GTE Series Round 6 at Barcelona, which now comes to a close with a few thank yous along the way. Starting off with our sponsors, Simulation Motorsports Affinity. You can find them at simsa.net if you want to check out to see how you can get involved with the worldwide sim racing community. And also to Buttkicker. They can be found at thebuttkicker.com to see all of their products for your sim racing rigs. Big thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure not only to subscribe, but also go and check out iRacing itself, see how you can get out and get racing. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music, and see the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Austin, and Doug. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook's Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store just linked below. It's gsrc.storenvy.com, where you can get some swag. The next race is going to be at Silverstone, as we mentioned. That's the newer version, by the way. So it should be fun to watch that. That'll be Tuesday, April 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.